So, as I already said, this is a German study at the German Journal of Developmental and Educational Psychology, where we try to see how the different dimensions kind of relate towards each other. So we used a little bit less than 4,000 students in grade 5 in Germany, again, beginning and end of the school year. And here we have now 3 different measures or dimensions of parental involvement, parental homework involvement: responsiveness, control, and structure. So more reflecting the self-determination theoretical framework. And again, we have reading achievement in a standardized test, as we did in study 1. And in order to find or to analyze the question whether there are different types, we did latent profile analysis to testing whether different numbers of types could be best represent the data. And then later on we conducted regressions to see whether they differentially affect students' development. So this is the kind of profile of the model that fit the data best. So the model fits for the three types where had the best model fit. And so the bold line that you see here is the average of the sample. And then you can see that in terms of the level of control, parents there were actually quite small differences between the families, and for structure bigger difference, but the biggest differences were actually in terms of parents' responsiveness. So in a way, this tells you that depending on how responsive parents are during the homework process actually affects how whether the help is being perceived as controlling or not. So or put it differently, the way or the level of responsiveness interacts with the level of control, meaning that if you have high levels of responsiveness, or parents show high levels of responsiveness, and then it apparently is not as bad to sometimes help without it being needed, whereas when you also have no kind of emotional support for students, then it also is very problematic when parents provide control. So, well, anyway, that's actually what I'm showing in the next slide. I'm kind of already jumping to the results. So you can see that the main differentiation is in terms of responsiveness, not so much in control, a little bit more in structure. So what we then wanted to do is to see if those types differentially kind of affect, even though that's not the right term to use, students' development, or put differently, if students belonging to these 3 different types of families developed differently during the school year. So what we did, we again ran a regression analysis where we used the type. We took the type that we found, and so one student was how to say this? So for each student, we knew which type of family they were growing up in, and then we used type 1, so kind of the theoretically best type, as the reference category. So this is the omitted reference category. This is why it's not shown here. So these are 2 dummy variables, meaning that this will show you the difference between type 2 versus type 1 and type 3 versus type 1 in terms of reading achievement. And so even if you control for reading achievement at the beginning of the school year, you will see that students in type 2 families had slightly slower reading achievement at the end of the school year, whereas the type 3 students which grew up or were in families where they had very low levels of responsiveness had even lower levels of reading achievement after a school year.